Hello, everyone. Okay, so yeah, we'll be doing demo now, but before we start coding, I'll just demonstrate first the finished result, so you have an idea of how everything works. So let's see. Let me my starter code. Okay, I think it's still running. But so basically, let's say I wanted to register my account. Okay, so I'm just gonna say my email is kate@cornell.edu, and then I'll pass in the password. So when I create a new account, basically we have a session token, a session expiration, and an update token that's returned to us. So the session token is what we talked about in lecture. It's sort of the access token that uniquely identifies us. So in case we want to I don't know, pass in some secret data, we have to first pass in the session token to verify it's us. And then the session expiration is just when this session token expires. So you'll see in the code how long this takes, but I think it's a day or something from when you create it. And then this update token is just another type of token, but it's what we use to generate a new token. So an update token is very useful because
it's gonna mind me fucking business. I'm fucking looking over. I'll play my best.
Oh,
It's a big move for me. Yeah.
I feel like that person is supposed to be muted. So I'll mute them. If they have a question, feel free to ask, but I don't think that was a question. Yeah, so an update token is basically what we use to update the session token. So this is different from the session token. This is what we use when we want to update the session token. And we need an update token because the session stuff is passed in through the header, and that's not very safe because anyone can really intercept that. So if we want to kick someone out, we can just use an update token and then create a new one. But yeah, that's basically what is returned. And then when we want to get some secret data or something, we can pass in the authorization and then the token. But we'll demonstrate that all later because I'll be coding it, but that's how it works. But before we start, make sure you go to the Backend course textbook. And I realize this is all really small, so let me zoom in. But yeah, make sure you go to the course textbook and download the starter code for demo 7 or lecture 7, and make sure you refresh it because we updated some things and sometimes GitHub caches your stuff. So make sure to refresh it so you get the newest file. But once you download that and unzip it, let me see what's here. Okay, I think this is it. So this is the starter code you'll get, and you'll see we have, oh my God, sorry. So you see we'll have our usual app.py, db.py, and then we have something called a user's DAO. So a DAO is basically a data access object. And this is just, you'll see right here, it's a helper file, and it just contains different functions. And this sort of just abstracts some functions away from our database, and it makes it easier to call. So we can call get user by email really easily in our app.py now. And yeah, it just sort of abstracts different functions so that it's easier to call. But yeah, that's what a data access object is, slash a DAO. But yeah, so let me increase the size of this. Is this a good size for everyone? Okay, cool. So the first thing we're going to do is open our terminal, and then we're going to get a virtual environment. So make sure when you open your terminal, you're not already in a virtual environment, because the thing about this demo is that we're actually installing new packages. So make sure you create a new one and install the packages because there's some new stuff there. So once you create a virtual environment, remember to activate it, and then do pip3 install. Oh my God. Let's see. Okay, so I had this issue earlier. I'm not really sure why the requirements.txt doesn't work, but if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, try just like installing like each of these things separately. So first install like pip3, install bcrypt, which is like something we use to encrypt and decrypt passwords. It's basically a package for that. But somehow, like, I don't know really why it doesn't work in the requirements file, but just do that in your virtual environment and then do pip3 install flask. And that should be all the packages you really need if the requirements.txt didn't work for you. So yeah, I'll just, did everyone like catch that? Where is everyone okay with their requirements.txt right now? Okay, cool. Might just be my laptop, but confirm. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so now we have all our packages. So the first thing we want to do is I'm just going to explain what sort of we have right now in our starter code. So you'll see in our db.py, everything is already created for us. So we have our user model. And one thing I want to emphasize is we have our session information right here. Usually you should not do this because like, let's say you're on like Instagram, you can have like multiple sessions on multiple devices, right? So you can have like a session on your phone, a session on like your iPad, a session on like your computer if you like log into Instagram from each of these devices. So you'd have like multiple sessions, and yeah, that would cause a relationship between like your sessions and your users. But for the sake of like simplicity in our demo, we just put it all in your user, so you only have like one session. But yeah, that's usually how you're supposed to do it. This is just for simplicity purposes. And then yeah, so here in our user, we just have a user, or I mean, email and a password. And the password digests, like once we create a user, basically this bcrypt thing, this whole like long thing here, this encodes the password to be stored in our database. And this is really important because we don't want our passwords just to like hang out in our database. Like if anyone intercepts our database, they're just going to see all our passwords. So in the case that someone does like see our database, we want to like protect our data. And so we encrypt it using like this function, and bcrypt just the package that does that. And then we use it in the format like UTF-8. So that's just like the format we're hashing our password in. And then it creates like a salt. And then that salt's like just a unique representation of your password. And yeah, that's basically what bcrypt and this whole line does. But essentially just know that it stores our passwords in a safer way so that it's not just like out there in our database. And then this is just a function that generates like our session token, expiration, and update token. And then yeah, this is just generating hash tokens, and then renew session. Yeah, this just creates a new session token. You can probably read through all of this, the documentation. But yeah, this here right here is where we define like when we want to set our expiration date to. So in lecture, we said this was very flexible. So like I can easily change this to like 10 days or like half an hour, but yeah. And then this is just some other things that verify the password, session token, and update token. And this is just making sure this is equal and it's not expired. And this is just making sure it's equal. And then this one is taking bcrypt, and then we take like the encoded password and then the password that's stored in our database. And then we just like make sure that's like matched. But because we don't really know what's happening, bcrypt tells us or does it for us. But yeah, that just verifies it. Does it kind of make sense what's happening in db.py? Okay, cool. So yeah, that's just what's happening here. And then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually create a user. So before we create a user in our data access object or our DAO file, we're going to see if we actually have a user already with this email. So this is going to be called optional user. And I forgot to say that, yeah, over here, this is just like different get commands. And then this is just like very similar to what we did like with our assignment, where we just filter a user by our ID. But now we're just getting users by different like unique identifiers. So our email, like only one email should be associated with one account. And then like our session token is unique and our update token is unique. So this is just like different get user commands, and it's already written for us. So we're just gonna call it. But yeah, when we create a user, the first thing we're gonna do is get user by email and see if this user is already like in our database. So it's called optional user because optional is actually type of like a data type. And it's like kind of just like none were an int, none were a string, none were this. So here it's like none were a user. And yeah, so once we create an optional user, we're going to see if our optional user exists. And if optional user is none, we're going to return a tuple. So I think tuples are not covered in 2110, but it's covered in 3110. But tuple is just like a pair. You can return like, you know, two things. So we're going to return a false, and we're going to return the actual user. And then otherwise, that means our user doesn't exist. So we're going to actually create our user now. And to do this, we're just going to like create a new instance of our user table. So this is, again, what we did in our assignment. You just like define using the parameters we pass in, and return true user. But yeah, that's basically our create user function and our DAO. And we're going to call create user in our app.py. Yeah, let me make sure I'm good on time here. Okay, cool. So yeah, so we're going to call create user when we register an account. So as we saw in Postman, when we registered an account, we had to use email and password. So that's the sort of data values we're expecting from our body. So this is just like a typical like, I guess post request. We just take the request body and then we like parse the information. So is this like a good speed for everyone? Like, has everyone caught on to stuff? Okay, cool. Body get password. And so now we just got the information from the request, and we want to make sure like they exist. So if they don't, we're going to return a failure response. We'll just say like invalid or missing user email. And then otherwise, we're going to call the create user function in our DAO. So to do this, we're just going to call like, we need to set two variables first because we return a tuple here. So we're just going to say was successful and the actual user, because we should be returning the user no matter what. So we're just going to call create user from our DAO, and then we have to do users DAO. So I'm getting a warning, but this is because I haven't imported my users DAO yet. So I need to, on the top of my file, just import users DAO, and this just makes sure that like all the functions in users like users DAO is accessible in the app.py. So yeah, this is very similar to just like importing your DB, and yeah, we can just like access the functions in our DB file. Cool. So yeah, so after we call create user, we have two sort of things: if it was successful and the actual user. So we're just going to check if it was successful or not, and if it wasn't, we're just going to return a failure response. And we're just going to say user already exists, because that's the only instance when we return false. And if it was, we're just going to return a success response. Okay. We're just going to pass in, I think it's just the, oh, yeah, it's this stuff right here. So we're going to pass in the session token, expiration, and update token. So to do that, we're going to create our body. So first thing we want is our session token. So we're just going to get the user and get the session token. And we're able to do this because we have, like, it's defined in our database as like a field. So we can just do that. And we have our session expiration. And that's also just another field. And this is a date time object. And you can see here it's of a date time type. So we want to parse this as a string, or convert it to a string. And then the last thing we want is an update token. And oops. And then we're just going to return user update token. And then this is a 201 request because we're registering a new account. But yeah, that's just how we create a new user. We're registering an account. So again, we're getting the information from the client. We check if it's valid. We call create user in our DAO, which actually creates the user. And then when we initialize, like when we create this object, remember in our db.py, the renew session actually generates all the session information for us. And then back in our app.py, we can just call the different fields and get it when we return a response. Does that kind of make sense to everyone? Cool. So let me stop this. Let's run our server now. So let's do Python 3 app.py. Cool. So let's make sure everything works. So I'm going to go to our workspace and create a new collection. And again, here we create a new collection in Postman. So it's like neat and you know what's happening. And we're going to create a request. And this is just registering account. And this is a post request and HTTP 5000. Oh, sorry. And then in our body, we're returning we're passing in raw JSON, and then we need email, which is zero. I'll just say it's let's say let's say hello world. Funny. Okay, so let's send this. Request has no option body. Request body. I think I just like, oh, request.data, my bad. So make sure you change that to data. And oh, user already exists. Oh, let me just create it under a new account. I'll say like SN6. Oh, it's because like the database was already created. Let me just delete it and do it again. So this creates a new database. And we're just going to do this. Where is this? Oh, wait. I forgot it includes database. I'll just say like fire. Oh my god. Let me see. Okay. Okay, sorry, I don't know why my code isn't working. Let me see. If not, was successful. Return failure response. Okay. Since we only have like 4 minutes left, I'll just get started with Kahoot and I'll figure out what's wrong my next time. Sorry about that. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to Backend lecture. Before we start with demo, oh, just a couple of reminders / announcements. PA6 is due Saturday. And office hours for Saturday have been moved earlier, so just make sure to check the calendar and Shinko's announcement on Ed for the actual times. And also, we're officially releasing like the hack challenge forms today, probably after this class. So just keep an eye out on Ed / your email when those forms come out. They are due, I think, like Friday for a team formation. So we'll post all the dates in this timeline soon, but just wanted to put that out there. And yeah, so last time I unfortunately ended with an error. My user wasn't creating, and I realized like literally right after I made a really stupid mistake. And that was that I said if optional user is none. So basically, if there was no user, I would just return false and like not like no user at all and say the user has already been created when it's the opposite. So you just got to change it to is not none and this should work. But yeah, sorry for that. So now you can just confirm we can register a new account on our server. So to do that, we just have to run python3 app.py and go to Postman, and then let's register this account. So I'll say KSL67. And you can see we get a session token, expiration date, and update token back. And so this session token is going to be used for when we access like a secret endpoint to get secret information. And it expires at this time, which we define in our db.py. And the update token is when we want to create a new token. So yeah. That's how we register an account. So the next endpoint we're going to create is for it's called like secret, and basically if we verify this user exists and the session token matches, then we're going to return secret info at this endpoint. So before we actually define this endpoint, we actually have to create a few helper functions. So let's go to our app.py, and in our app.py, you'll see we have a function at the top called extract token. And this is a helper function that you can see in the like doc string that extracts a token from the header of a request. So when we pass in different like tokens, usually how we do it is, let me see, basically like we add a header here and we do like authorization. And then we say like bearer. And then we like take this token and paste it in. And then we send a request. And then the backend verifies the session token in this header. And then we can do whatever verification or return whatever we want back to our client. So the extract token helper function basically takes the header of the request, and then we want to get this token right here. And the bearer is just the type of token that we're returning. So there's different types of tokens, like I guess that people use. Bearers probably one of the more common ones, but there's all sorts of different ones you can use. So let me delete this from this one. So to create this function, the first thing we want to do is actually get the header. And to get the header of a request, we can just do auth header is equal to requests dot headers dot get. And then, oh, that was something. Authorization. And basically this just takes the request header, and then we find the key authorization, and then we get the value of that. And then to actually get the token, we have to sort of like, the function is called like strip, and then we have to like get the actual token from it. But before we do that, let's just make sure the header exists. So if the auth header is none, and return failure response. No, we just return false. Yeah. We can return JSON dumps. So the reason we don't use failure response here is because this is a helper function, and the helper function is returning a tuple. So we just want to keep that consistent. And next we want to actually get the token. So we'll create a variable called bearer token, and then we get it from the header, and then we replace an empty string, and then we strip. So this basically just takes, like, again, if I had this, we replace this with nothing, and then we just extract this part from the value of the authorization header. So yeah, now we actually have this token itself. And then we just want to return true and the actual token. So this, again, just extracts the token from the header. This gets the header. This checks the header exists. And then this actually gets the token from the values in the header. And then we return a tuple that it was successful in the actual token. So this sort of helper function will be used in this endpoint right here called secret. And secret, again, just verifies your session token and returns a secret message. So to do this, we want to use the function we just created called was successful, and then, or not was successful, called extract token. But extract token, remember, returns a tuple with like a Boolean and then the actual token. So this just sets variables for those. And then we want to pass in the actual request. And then next thing we want to do is make sure that we actually got the token. So if it wasn't successful, then we return session token. And remember, if it was a failure response, then if it was a error, then we would just return this message. So a failure would be returned. And otherwise, it can actually like verify it and then return the message. So to do that, we're going to use a function in our users DAO file called get user by session token. And then if we go to our users DAO, you see we have this function right here. And again, because your session token is unique, we can just do this. And this is very similar to just getting a user by its ID. but except we're using our session token. So we're just going to pass in the session token from the header. And then we're going to check that the session token is right. So this, so return a failure response, valid session token. So this if statement basically just confirms that we actually got a user from this helper function. And then verify session token is in our db.py, and it's a function making sure that the session token that we receive is like, it hasn't been expired, and that it's also equal to the session token of that user. So we're just making sure first that a user exists and that session token is valid. And then last, we're just going to return that secret message. So unfortunately, that secret message is not like anything fun. It's just going to be a JSON body that says message, you have successfully session. This. And yeah, so does everyone sort of get what we're doing here and how the helper function comes into play and how everything comes together? Okay, cool. So let's test this out. So let's create a new request and let's call it secret. And this is a GET request. And localhost 5000 and secret. And we're going to take the session token from here and pass it into the header so that we can actually extract it using our helper function. So remember, the key is authorization. And then the token, we can just paste it in. Or there's sort of two different ways you can like make this easier on yourself. One was using the global variables in Postman that we covered in the last demo. So again, to do this, we just go to environments, you go to globals, and then you can, I was testing this earlier, but you can define a new variable called session token, and then set the value to your session token, and then make sure to save this. So like Postman actually registers it. And then once you save this in your global environment, you can go to secret, and instead of having to paste this every time, you can just do like session token. Make sure to do like 2 curly brackets, braces, and then like you can just send it. And ooh, invalid session token. Let's see. I think because I tested it, it was not right. Oh, let me make sure. Oh, yikes. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, let me just register account again. Okay, we're gonna try this one. Okay. Oh, okay. So in our create user, I never did db session.commit. My bad. So in our create user, make sure to add db.session.commit. I realized that like every time I register an account, like even though this email existed, it was still creating a new account. So I realized that it wasn't actually registering. Oh, And yeah, make sure to do db.session.add there. So sorry. Yeah, make sure to add these two lines. And now your database should actually include the user you just created. So after you like start it again, do send, and hopefully actually register this time. And then let's go secret message. And then I'm gonna update my global variables to show you that this actually works. Save it, and then change this to, and then yeah, we get our success message. So yeah, sorry for a little hiccup. But yeah, that's sort of how you how that one works. And then another way you can actually do this is you can go to your like collection, and then you can do like bearer token, and then just like insert a token. And then the cool thing about this is that this will sort of like set the bearer token itself for every request you make in this collection. So I can actually just go to like authorization and inherit auth from parent. And basically, you can see up here, Postman automatically does it for us. So we don't have to go through it every time. But yeah, that's one good thing about Postman. It sort of just like does a lot of manual tasks for us. So if I run this again, you'll see this still works per usual. But yeah, those are two ways you can sort of make this whole thing easier. But yeah, I'll just do this because I sort of illustrate the concept better. But does anyone have any questions about the secret endpoint? Does everyone's work, hopefully? Okay, amazing. So next we're gonna move on to login. And before we implement login, we also have helper functions for login. So yeah, so when we call login in our app.py, we want to pass in a username and password, right? So we want to verify the password is actually our password. So in our users DAO, you can see we have a helper function called verify credentials. So we're going to use this to return true if the credentials match, and otherwise return false. So yeah, the first thing we're going to do is again get our user using the helper function get user by email, and we take in the email passed in. And then if this user doesn't exist, we're going to return false and none because there's no user. Otherwise, we're going to return optional user verify password and the actual user. So this verify password has already been done for us in the db.py. And if you go to db.py and go to verify password, this basically uses the bcrypt library and takes the password that was encrypted, and then like it just checks if it works ourselves, like by itself, and then we just get the result from that. So this returns true if the password, if the password matches, and then we just return the user as our second value in the tuple. Does that kind of make sense? How that works? Cool. So we're going to use verify credentials in our login endpoint. So we go to app.py. We're going to first want to take the email and password from our request body. So we're going to do body equals json.load request.data. And then we're going to actually get the password. And we're going to make sure everything that was required is passed in. And then otherwise, we're going to call the verify credentials in our users.py. And it's going to be was successful and user again. We're going to pass in that user and email and password that we were given. And then we're going to check if that was successful and return a failure response. So if it wasn't, that probably means that the credentials didn't line up, because that's what we do here. So we're just going to return incorrect username or password. And then otherwise, we can return a success. So, and now we're just going to return basically the same thing we return when we we're register. So the session token, session expiration, and update token. So you can actually just like copy and paste it, but I'll be good to actually type it. So you can use user session token, session expiration. And user update token. And actually, if you remember, like default, I think code for failure response is 404, but there's like a special failure response endpoint, like similar to when you have incorrect format for like your email or password, that returns a 400 in our assignment. For like authorization issues, I think it's 401. So if you want to do it extra, and like in our assignment, this would be 400, but yeah, that's more about HTTP status codes. But let's test this out. So let's create another request for login. And this is a post, local post. And this is login. And what's this raw? JSON. And then let's pass in our email. So I'm going to pass in like the wrong one just to show you how like verified credentials work and to show you that the library actually does work. So I'll say like the email is Shingo's email. And then the password is the same one from my account, hello world. And then this shouldn't work because the emails don't line up. But if I put in mine, this should work. So you can see, oh wait, yeah, this is supposed to be str. We did this up here because this is daytime, we have to pass it into a string. But yeah, we'll see if we get all the info we need. And then let's see. Oh, I wanted to show y'all how authorization extracts token works, like the failure case for that. So let's say I didn't pass in like a token at all. You can see this is invalid. And then let's say I missed a header. You'll see that, oh, I get an error, but I think this is because I didn't like catch this one. If I do like this, you'll see it doesn't work. So yeah, everything does work even in failure cases. But you can do like extra like error catching to make sure we don't get like scary errors like this. But yeah, that's our login endpoint. So let me save that here. And then the last one is for updating your session token. So yeah, so this one will need to take in the update token instead of the session token. So remember, your update token and session token are different. Update token is what we use when we want to create a new session token. And so when you create a new session token, your old session token doesn't work. So to do that, we need to create a helper function again. I think this is in our users DAO. Yeah, it's renew session. And so we take in the update token, basically verify that update token is like it works. And then we just generate new info. So to do that, we're just going to do user equals get user by update token. And then, okay, yeah, so this is a helper function that is up here, and it just, again, because your update token is also unique, you can just like get a user that way too, and that should work. So we get a user by their update token, and then if user is none, we want to raise an exception and call it invalid. And then we do user, a new session, and then db.session.commit. So the reason we raise an exception and don't return a failure response is because this is in our DAO file. And that's like the purpose of a DAO file is to abstract it away from like our app and DB. So because this is like more abstract, we don't want to return a failure response because that JSON file, like that JSON like thing will actually ever return. So we can just cache this in our app.py and then just return that because it is more abstract. Does it kind of make sense why we use exceptions and not failure response here? Okay, cool. So, and then user.renew session, it's what we did up here to generate credentials when we register. It's in our db.py, and yeah, you can see what it does here. And then we just db.session.commit, remember, just updates our database. So that's it for our renew session like function. And then in our app.py, let's actually update our session now. So the first thing we want to do is take the token from our header, right? Because the update token basically works the same way as our session token, but when we want to update, instead of passing in, oh, this is another one. Instead of passing in like session token, we'd like create a new variable called update token and then pass that one in. So I guess this is like the bad part about this demo, like this one, because you don't really get to distinguish that. But with our like environment global variables, you can distinguish that. But let's just actually do this first. So we're going to extract the update token from our header. So we do extract token request. And then we want to make sure that that was successful. And then try user equals user. Otherwise, you want to cache that exception. You return a failure response. And then this is a and otherwise, we return a success response if a failure response is not returned. So again, we basically do the same thing as up here when we do session token. User's new session token. And then session expiration. And then we want to str this. Yeah, that should work. So yeah, this is again the helper function we created in our users DAO. It should update all the info here. So our update token, once you use it once, that means we can't use it again. Similar with our session token, once you generate a new one where it's expired, we have to, like it won't work. And then this like F string is, I don't know if you learn it in 1110, if you've taken 1110, I did not take 1110, but basically it like, just like, if you want to print a variable, you can just like do that and it will replace it with whatever you want to print. So yeah, in this case, we're printing this exception message here, invalid update token. And then, yeah, so let's test this out. Let's create a new request called update. This is a post request. Host 5,000. And this is called session. And this is a post request. And in our header, we want to, let me get this away. And then we find a key authorization error. And then I'm going to do the global variables trick. So you'll see this error right now because I haven't defined it. I'll do that right now. Update token. Let's take, say, the one from register. Save this and I go to update. Okay. User.session token. Let's see. Did I return this? Oh wait, let me go to my user stuff. Oh, so I actually never returned anything in my user's DAO. So I was supposed to return the user. Sorry about that. So make sure you add this line. And let's try this again. Oh, invalid update token. Oh, it's because I logged in. So this one is different, I think. Yeah. Okay, let's just. Okay, so I'm gonna take this new one. I think it's because I just. Okay, cool. So the reason it didn't work the first time was because like the database actually updated, but like since I didn't get the actual value because there was a error in my helper function, when I tried to use my old one, it didn't work. But once I pass in the right one, you can see that the session token is different from the one I just got here, as well as the update token. So if I try to use the same one that I just used over here in my update session, you can see the error pops up again. So yeah, that's how things are kept secure in our server. So that's actually it for today's demo. Does anyone have any questions about anything? Anywhere I can like slow down because I think I might have went too fast. Okay. Okay. Does anyone, before we move on to logging out, have any like questions? Okay, cool. So this is actually not covered in the usual semester or past semesters, but we just have time. So we'll just cover logging out. And actually, log out. So to log out, we basically just like verify the user like we do in login, but then we just like update the session expiration to now. And then, yeah, so we're gonna do that. Yeah. So, oh wait, sorry, you don't verify it like you do in login. You verify it using the session token. So we're going to, let's see. Okay, wait. Okay, so it's very similar to the secret message endpoint. We're going to first extract the session token. So we're just, sorry, this code is a mess. So we're gonna first check if we can extract the session token. So we're going to extract and request, and then, oh wait, sorry, I was using Java. And then, okay, so we're going to make sure this is successful. And return session token, which is our failure message. If it wasn't, and then otherwise, we're going to return, we're going to get the user by the session token. Now let's make sure we actually got a user. Oh, or let's make sure that that session token actually works. Then we return a failure response saying that this is or invalid session. Otherwise, we're basically just going to set user dot session expiration. I think that's the one, equal to datetime. Oh, and we have to import this library, which I'll do in just a second. And we're going to commit it to database. And as our like yeah, let me import datetime real quick. That should work. Let me the post request. Oh yeah, and this is a post request because even though we're not like, well, I guess we're like still updating something, even though we don't really return our newly updated values. We're still updating something, so that's a post request. Post blog. And we have to go to our header, and I'll just set this because the authorization, which is their session token. We have to take, I have to log in again because I just lost the newly created session token. Okay, let's take this one and then let's update it in our environment variables. Let's go back to our logout. And the user registration. Oh, oops. So I never passed in the session. Sorry, I keep making mistakes today. Or I just, I think it's like about the time. Okay, cool. I'm sorry. I was like debugging on the spot. So yeah, if you didn't cache that, sorry, I went like super fast. Make sure you pass in your actual session token because I was just basically trying to get a user without no session token. And then this is not users DAO. Verify session token is a function under db.py user, not your users DAO. And then yeah, This one should be datetime.datetime.now. The way you can like not do that and just do datetime.now is just do like from datetime import datetime up here. And make sure you import your datetime. And then yeah, hopefully that worked. And if I try to like use the same session token again, it should say invalid session token because that session expiration already expired. But yeah, that's really how logout works. And then if I wanted to log in again, I would just generate new credentials. So because this is using my username and password, like I can still get a new session token. And yeah, make sure you like, if you do it as an environment variable way, make sure you update your environments. And then like, I think you have to like update both of these and then save it. But maybe for like simplicity's sake, you can just like copy and paste it in. But yeah, does anyone have any final questions? I can like put this back up because I know it might have been kind of fast. But yeah. Okay, since no one has any questions, we'll just move on to Kahoot. So let me go to lecture 14. But yeah, good job